So I'm out here just before sunrise here in Germany, getting ready to take the brand new Air 3S for its very first test flight. So let's take it up and see how it goes. All right, so here we go. Make sure it's set to 4K 60. We are going to switch over into D-Log M for our best results, and we'll turn off auto ISO and shutter speed. We are going to adjust those manually in just a bit. Bump our white balance up to about 6,000 Kelvin, and we are going to go ahead and take off. And this is what you call a beautiful sunrise. Now, I don't want it to be so bright, so we're going to click our ISO down a little bit to about 800, and ooh, still clipping some highlights. Oh man, this is beautiful. Shut off color display assist so that we can see what we're doing here. This is supposed to have 14 stops of dynamic range, but looks like even that is not quite enough for this shot. We're gonna have a few clipped highlights, so I'm just going to lean into that a little bit because you can't entirely avoid it, and we're just gonna go ahead and fly it back over here. We are about 300 feet off the ground right now. So let's turn over here and get some shots of the town, of the city here. Going to bump up our ISO here to ISO 400, and maybe actually ISO 800. We'll see how this does in a bit lower light. Typically, I don't like to go above ISO 400 at all, but with the new 1-inch sensor, glad they brought that back from the Air 2S. Hopefully it will do a bit better. And I am liking this shot right here very much. Let's switch onto our 3x camera here. I like the fact that they have sped up how fast it switches to the 3x camera. That is very nice. Gonna go ahead and do a bit of a parallax shot here. It looks like our ISO is ridiculously high, which will probably not look very good on this 3x telecamera. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to change this down to a bit more manageable ISO. And we're going to pan back over here towards our sunrise, see what kind of cool shots we can get. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and switch back to our 1x camera. And wow, we are really clipping these highlights. So you can see a very, very high dynamic range situation going on here. And yeah, it's just so early that there's not much detail in the ground, and we're still clipping the highlights. And we are going to brighten this back up again, get some shots of the old town here. You can see Frankfurt right off there in the distance, some of those taller buildings. Maybe try to get some shots of those once the sun pops over the horizon. And we're gonna try bumping our ISO up even further to 1600, see how that does. As you can see, it's still pretty dark. And back down to ISO 100. We're gonna try to get another parallax shot of the sunrise here. Get these kind of boring buildings out of the frame. Actually, we're gonna flip it into sport mode. This thing's supposed to be able to go, at least if it has a tailwind, it's supposed to be able to go even faster than 45 miles an hour. Right now, I'm only getting 40 miles an hour. Not sure if that might be something that's EU limited or what. And this is looking very, very crispy at 400 feet, so we should be above any obstacles. So you can see there's very, very slight clipping in the highlights there. Not a whole lot we can do about that because our shadows are already so dark. But I am actually going to turn over just a little bit here so that we're focusing on the sunrise colors on the side of our shot rather than in the center. And going to do another shot here. Again, flying forward, full speed in sport mode. And yeah, I'm only getting 30 miles an hour, which is strange. I feel like the Air 3 was actually maybe a little bit quicker than this. Again, this may be some EU limitations on it. I'm not sure, but yeah, I expected it to be a hair bit quicker. Looks like there's a little pond over here. Didn't even know that. A little sunrise-ish reflection in it. I never knew this existed. Let's actually just focus in on this pond. All right, so we're starting to get a bit more light here on everything when we're pointed away from the actual sunrise. So we're going to go ahead and get some shots here. Now I've heard that in normal color profile you actually get 10-bit color depth as well. Haven't tested that yet because right now we have such high dynamic range that I wasn't entirely sure that that would work well. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over into the 3x camera. I need to switch my shortcuts so that they do what I expect them to. You can see we can actually see the buildings of the city of Frankfurt all the way from over here this is an outlying area of Frankfurt. Last time I was here, I just had an Air 2, actually not the Air 2S, the Air 2, and it only had a wide camera, so definitely could not get cool shots like this. And I'm going to change up my composition a little bit, put the horizon right about on a thirds line so I can include both some of the town here and of Frankfurt in the background. I definitely need to change my gain and expo settings so that this will be a little bit smoother on the parallaxes, and also gimbal tilt settings so that we can get smoother gimbal tilts. If you want the settings for that, I have an Air 3S settings checklist that you can get down in the description for free. Okay, so quickly here, I really need to change my button customization here to use the C2 button to switch between the two cameras. There we go. This is just my RC2 from the original Air 3 that I just went ahead and grabbed here for the Air 3S because I much prefer to have the screen built in rather than having to use my phone all of the time. And wow, can't wait to get and color grade this footage. It is looking absolutely beautiful. Got almost 360-degree sunrise. And so now we're starting to get to where we're closer to having enough dynamic range to cover both the sky and the ground. Still not entirely there. And you might be able to hear that overhead we've got jets flying over, but this is under the approach path for Frankfurt Airport, but it's outside the airspace that is controlled, so they're all well above 400 feet, so we are good there. And I am going to go ahead and repeat my Frankfurt skyline shot now that we've got a little bit more light on it. We're finally getting some more nice balanced exposures after our very dark exposures with the early sunrise. We're getting some nice colors right in the sky right above Frankfurt. And I am so loving this shot, just absolutely beautiful. And I am going to go ahead and actually fly this back in right here to where I am. I want to get some little bit lower shots with some of the fog in these fields. Our battery life so far is doing quite well. We're at 25%. We've been flying for quite a while, most of it in sport mode. So bringing the drone in here, around the end of these trees, here we are. And don't see any walkers out here now, so I think we are good to go. I'm going to drop it down real close to the ground here and make sure that our settings all look good. Actually going to maybe bump it up to ISO 200. Looks a little overexposed on the controller, but we're in logs, so that will all work out just great. And we're just going to fly along right above the ground. 1/60th of a second shutter, so we're getting that nice creamy motion blur. And there we've got all the nice fog. Got to watch out for any power lines. I think I see some right over here. So we are going to make sure that we pull up before we hit those.
Aircraft will return
And we are getting a low battery warning. So we are going to actually heed that in 1 second. We're going to click our exposure down a little bit to try to preserve as much detail in the highlights as possible without totally ruining our shadows here. We're going to actually flip it into obstacle avoidance mode just to be safe and get some nice parallax around some of this fog with these power lines. Some huge power line pylons here in Germany. And we're going to go ahead and click our exposure actually back up and bring it into home and swap out the battery. So one thing I'm noticing is that this is very quick to get the home point locked, just like the Air 3 was. I feel like this may be even quicker. That might be because I was already flying and just took off again, but it is doing a very nice job. Actually going to try switching over here to normal or hybrid log gamma color. I want to test out if it has the same issue of randomly changing the exposure in hybrid log gamma. That was a big annoyance on the Air 3, so we'll see if that has carried over to the Air 3S or if they managed to fix it. And we're going to make a nice slow turn here, and that is looking absolutely gorgeous. Again, I cannot wait to get this footage on the computer, get it color graded. Going to go ahead and bring the drone back over the fields, pop it into sport mode real quick so we can move a little quicker. Again, I just don't feel like this is hitting 45, 46, 47 miles an hour quite as fast as the Air 3 did, and I don't know exactly what the cause behind that is. Here is a good test of if hybrid log gamma has been fixed or not. What will it do with tilting the camera down to the ground and then back up to the sunrise? Just looking at the screen here, it does look like it still has some of those same old issues. A little bit disappointing. I was really hoping that would be fixed, but it does not look like it was. So we're gonna go ahead and pop up just so we are above all the trees and that sort of stuff. And then we are going to push in just a little bit here, and I'm going to actually switch over to the 3x telephoto camera. This is really nice for when you can't fly as close to something, but you still want to get a good shot. We've got this little observation tower over here that I think would make a very cute shot. So we're going to parallax around that. So you can see this is letting us get way more depth and parallax between that tower and the hills in the background, actually even behind Frankfurt. And of course Frankfurt in there as well. And I'm going to ascend a little bit to make sure I don't hit into any obstacles because the ground is going up a little bit in that direction. And I've heard that vision assist is even better on the Air 3S, so I'm going to tap down here in the corner, and then I'm just going to tap in the corner of that to switch over to vision assist. And yes, wow, that is much improved. On the Air 3, the dynamic range on these was, I'm going to say, essentially non-existent. So you could basically only see the sky and anything that was silhouetted against the sky. Whereas now on the Air 3, you've got much better situational awareness there. So that is a big plus. And it looks like we're losing some of our sunrise colors, which is a bit unfortunate, but we are going to just go ahead here and get some 3x camera shots of some of these other buildings over here. Again, this is all in hybrid log gamma. I'm not entirely sure how well hybrid log gamma will do on the Air 3S, but so far it's looking pretty good. I'm really loving the 3x camera on this. It lets me get some of these really nice depth compression shots. We've got a whole bunch of different layers, these buildings in the foreground, the buildings further back, and then Frankfurt all the way off in the distance. Very cool shot. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to D-Log. I think I was liking that a little bit better. We're going to bump up our white balance just a tiny bit more because I feel like it's getting a bit cold. And then I'm going to switch again back into 3x telecamera mode, and we're going to go up and back into the side as we parallax around these cranes back over here. I do not know what they're building back there, but looks very cool. So we're going to go ahead and come back over here toward our location. And the camera on the Air 3S can tilt up quite a bit, so you can actually tilt up and see the airplane over me, and zoom in on it and click down my exposure a little bit, and we're going to actually try to get a parallax shot around a flying airplane. Again, as I mentioned, those planes are well over 400 feet, and I'm well under 400 feet, so I'm not going to hit them. And it looks like we have lost pretty much all of our sunrise, 99.9999% of it. So I'm gonna call it a day for the first flight and go ahead and bring the drone back in. Actually, I take that back. There's still a few pretty sunrise colors over that direction. So we're gonna darken down the exposure and go after them. Actually flip it into sport mode. Oh, it already is in sport mode. Very pretty. We've got these power lines in the way, but what can you do? We'll just call them an addition to the landscape. And even though this is fairly high dynamic range, I want to just try out normal color profile. Oh, maybe I don't want to try out normal color profile. That is really contrasty to the point where I can't see anything on the ground, and it's actually going to impede my safety a little bit because I'm going to actually lower my altitude here a little bit to just above these trees. And I want to get a shot here with these power line pylons in it, just because I think it looks kind of cool. And we're going to go ahead and come flying back, I think this time for the last time. And this time I actually am going to switch it into normal color profile, and we are going to brighten it up a good bit. Not so bright it clips the highlights. I'm curious what 10-bit normal color profile is like. On the Air 3, I was already fairly impressed with normal color profile because it was better than on a lot of previous DJI drones, but hopefully this is even better. Now, as you can see, I still like to shoot in log and hybrid log gamma because I get a lot more color grading flexibility and a lot more dynamic range, especially in D-Log M. But normal color profile has come a long ways if you don't want to have to do a lot of color grading on your shots. So that is it for the very first flight with the brand new Air 3S. It is very similar to the Air 3, but it has some great upgrades, especially bringing back the 1-inch sensor. That's something a lot of people wanted. I'm very curious to look at the footage on the computer, see how it compares to the Air 3. And I'm going to be making a whole bunch more videos with this new drone, comparing it to the Air 3 and showing how to get the best results with it. Actually, if you want to get better results with your Air 3, Air 3S, or any other drone, there's a couple things you'll want to check out. First of all, I've got a completely free settings checklist that you can download for both the Air 3 and Air 3S. So make sure to go and download that if you have one of those drones. And I also have a completely free 45-minute drone filmmaking training where I give you my top 10 secrets to get the most cinematic shots with whatever drone you have, covering things like composition, the best settings, how to get smooth moves, how to edit your videos, how to color grade them, and a whole bunch more. And link to that is down in the description as well. And if you want to go even deeper, I have a full 10-hour drone filmmaking course where I share every single part of my workflow for creating professional drone videos. And of course, that's all linked up down in the description. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content just like this, and we'll see you in the next video.